Hey guys, it's Julien. Today I'm going to be talking to you about how I made the hard mix of Escape from Versailles. So it's a little bit of a different style than the main mix, and we're going to be talking all about that, kind of the idea behind this as well, a little bit of marketing tips for your music. And yeah, as usual, you can get the full project file, samples, MIDI, presets, every single thing from the track is available right at the top of the description on my Bandcamp. This really helps support me if you guys enjoyed these videos, so definitely go grab that if I've helped you out. Also, you can grab the track on Beatport now. The link is right at the top of the description. I really appreciate the support, guys. You know, this really helps me out. I'm trying to run this thing up, so it's only like $1.29, something like that. But definitely go grab it so you can support me and we can all keep benefiting from this. So yeah, thank you so much, guys, and let's dive in. So, this is the mix. We're at 140 BPM, and just like with the last one, you can see, very kind of nicely organized project. We start with the kick up here. You can see there's a bit of automation on that. I'll talk about that in a moment. But yeah, so this kick is comprised of 4 layers. So it's this one, which is just a sample pack kick, which I processed a bit, kind of made it my own. This one, which is just a nice like on top of it to add some punch. So that's these two. You can hear it really makes it click through the mix. And then we have the bass. And yeah, so then we get all those together. And this is really solid, right? We've got a really good punch. We've got a really good bass. The thing about this style of techno, though, is I think you need something a little bit more kind of like in the low mid-range. Like you need like a like that kind of frequency range, you know? Because if you don't have that, it's just kind of missing that atmosphere. Especially like at the beginning of the track. Like, here's without this. And then with it, you can hear, like, it's just really going to be important there for the track and to really get that proper vibe. So, to do that, I have this loop. And what this is it was actually like a rumble loop or something. The thing about this is I would have used it for the bass, but it didn't really have a very good like low end to it, right? Like it's not, I don't know, it was a little bit too much like 100 hertz. So I'll just cut out the low end. But we're still getting like the from it, so it's gonna fit really nicely into that kick, and that can add that atmosphere that you're looking for. Again, without it. It's just like too clean. And the truth be told, I'm pretty sure this was the kick from, I want to say it was See the Stars. It was another track that I've released before. And I started with, like, I literally just dragged that into the project file, started with that, and then kind of worked with it and made it work a little bit better from this track. I think I pitched some stuff. Obviously, I added the, like, mid-range loop. So, yeah, I definitely recommend doing that. You know, you've been making all these stems in your tracks, right? Like, you're preparing all these kicks, all these hi-hats, all this percussion and stuff. It's like, you know, don't be too proud to use it again, right? Because, like, at the end of the day, like, very few people are going to listen to your track and be like, oh, that's the same hi-hat or the same kick as I used in this track. And then on the group here, so I just have this EQ, which is doing, like, the low cut. I got that. And then the other thing that's happening with this is just, like, a low-pass filter, because you can see it just makes it disappear there. We've got a high-pass, which, as you can see, comes on a lot. You know, it's a good way to add some dynamics to a style of track like this, because like if you look at the intro, it's pretty repetitive, right? It's a lot of the same thing over and over. But when you do it this way, you can kind of like bring it to life a little bit more there. And yeah, and then we just have a washout for some transitions. Then we have the percussion. So you can see we've got our classic ravey club sounds. Right, we have one that's like and then this one that I actually made by chopping together a few different loops. You can see this here where it's like yeah, it's hard to explain, but and then you can also see that I've got a little fade on there. So I think I talked about this the other day in another video, but I'll just show you really quick. Like if I reset that, see how there's like a at the start of the sample. Well, you already have one of those up here, right? We have this layer. So you don't really want another one of those coming out of this like percussion loop. So you just go in and fade it. And that's like the little step. And it's again like, you know, everyone's like, oh, using loops is so easy, it's cheating, whatever. But like, that's where it really comes down to like putting in the time to make the loop work. Because it's not usually just going to work like right out of the pack. You know, it's more like a template for something later. But another thing with these is you can see that it's just the layering. Like one is more high end and one's got more mid range. And you put them together and you get something really full. And yeah, and then we have our hi-hat. I have this like kind of two rides. One fills in a little bit more high end where the other one's missing. And then we have our 909 clap. I've shown you guys this before actually. It's just like the nice, you know, you take the 909 clap, put it into a little bit of reverb, distort it. And you get that big, like, nice crunchy snare that's going to sit really well on this fat kick. Because the thing is, if you have a kick that's, like, slamming through the mix, it's like, boom, boom, boom. Like, you really need a hard-hitting clap and hi-hat. Like, these three elements, they have to be kind of equal. Because if they aren't, your groove isn't going to work, right? That's, like, what the groove is kind of sitting on. And then on the group of all that percussion, we have a bit of, so actually a tiny bit of drum bus, but it's just blended in there. I have an EQ, which is cutting out lows, and it's also got a low pass filter automation. I have this echo. I've shown you guys this before. It's for the little transitions. Just doing the tape stop with that like automation really quick, and then we just have a little washout. And yeah, so then underneath that, we have this little loop, which I made by chopping together a few other loops. See, these were like really long effects loops, like two separate ones. And then I just took them and just shortened them and then kind of chopped them rhythmically. So again, using loops and using all the texture and kind of character that are in those loops because they are loops and they have a lot of that. But then making it your own. And that's just going through a bit of echo, high pass, low pass, auto pan. This is really just more about finding really cool sounds and chopping them up, rather than like doing some kind of long and convoluted process to essentially like make it that way. And yeah, so then we have this bass. So this is the same exact MIDI from the main track. That's the whole thing here, right? But this I actually recorded with the Moog Sub 37. So this was just like a pretty straightforward patch for like a respace, you know, just like a nice crunchy, super detuned sauce. I really like the detune on there. That's why I wanted to use it for this. And then what I actually ended up doing, so you can see this processing on here. We got multiband distortion and then just like a high pass. But then I actually ended up adding in a second layer. So here's just this first layer on its own. And then with the layer. And it's just the same thing, an octave up, and then just with complex pro, so it's not too weird. And yeah, so it just kind of added a bit more fullness to this. Thought it sounded good, so I kept it. And then on the group of these two, so it's just a high pass, which is automating kind of like, yeah, you can see just in there to make it disappear a little bit. We got a low pass filter as well with tons of automation. You can ignore this notch. EQ, which is not doing anything, I guess. And then I've got a shaper box here, washout. Then we have, so then I'll show you the lead as well. So again, same deal. Same melody from the other version, but just with a new sound. This is like this super kind of like crunchy noise unison square wave thing. Got some echo and reverb. This one's being multiband distorted as well. You can ignore the sidechain. Low pass to automate it around in the track. Washout, shaper box. Which I'm just using shaper box for the kind of like fake sidechaining effect. I just like the way you can shape it really nicely. No pun intended. But yeah, and then we have this. It also sounds like this. So yeah, what's happening here, it might seem a little bit complicated. All that's going on is just like a basic transgating thing here. And I'm actually going to make a video soon showing you guys this technique. But what it is you can see, so it's this Anna patch, which is just like this vocal thing that I tweaked. So very basic, just like a vocal synth patch. You can find that in like a lot of synths, right? And then it's playing this MIDI here. I think a big part of this really is what it's playing rather than the sound. Like, it's just like the way, basically what's happening here is this isn't anything that the other instruments are playing. Like the lead and the bass line, it's just 3 instruments, right? Just lead, bass line, and then this pad. That's it pretty much. The lead and the bass line are playing their own thing. And then this is actually like changing notes and changing chords at the same time as the bass line, but it's playing its own thing. So you get a very nice sound from that. Right? So just adding like a lot of tension on top of that. And again, that kind of goes back to something I was saying. It's like, it's not just like cool sounds. It's not whatever. It's like, dude, you could just put that on a piano and it would sound really cool, right? And ultimately, I think if you have something that's really solid to the core like that, and it's standing on top of that, and then you do, oh yeah, cool transgate synth, you know, sound design, all that kind of stuff, that's going to make the best stuff. Rather than just shooting for, oh cool, let's use the transgate pad and just make like some basic, like whatever chords. Like, this wouldn't be nearly as impactful if it wasn't for the actual notes that it's playing. And that comes before any sound design. And it's also, I think it's important to just kind of know like when that comes into play too, which I'm actually about to talk about in a moment with this. But yeah, so you can see here we've got just the gate on there. And then what's happening is we've got it side chained. So side chaining with the gate is like the opposite of side chaining with the compressor. With the compressor, it ducks it out of the way when the sound plays. This only plays when the other sound plays. So then I just have this operator down here. It's just white noise, just playing the pattern essentially. And then yeah, you just set up that side chain. Set the threshold, and there you go, you get the effect. So it's a really easy way to do that. And then I just have a high pass. You can ignore the side chain. Another high pass, I guess. And then this low pass, which automates throughout. And then all that's happening is that's layered with, I took the bass synth and just pitched it up an octave. But then something that I did over here to kind of get a little bit more creative with this is I actually ended up using some external reverb to kind of create a transition here. So, Eventide actually sent me over a black hole recently. Really appreciate it. It's a beautiful reverb pedal. So nice for like guitar, synths, pads, all kind of stuff like this. Really appreciate that. But yeah, you can actually use this like with Ableton very easily. So all you have to do here, you can see I've got the external audio effect. I've got it going so it's going out through the output there and then back in right there. And then it's going, all I have is I just have the cables plugged into the Eventide here. And now we can make some really cool effects with this. And then I'm recording it here with this track. See how the input is set to 23 group? There you go. So then all I gotta do is just hit record and I can just play around and it's gonna record everything in. Because if you just keep it as the external audio effect, anything you do on here is not recording. So what I've got to do is record that onto a track, and then I'll just have that as an audio file. So we got like our main kind of drop part here, and then we have this break. Now we have like a cool transition in there from this thing. The very interesting thing about this is that, you know, it's not just using hardware, just hardware, techno, jam, whatever. It's like, okay, I'm working on a track. I need something that I can't just do in the computer that's not just like washout rack, you know, and this provides with something, you know. It's a very quick way to generate something interesting, just playing around with the sound on here and kind of tweaking it. So I think this can be really, really valuable for music making. Thank you, Eventide, for sending it over. You're the best. So again, I want to give a big thanks to the people over at Eventide for sending that over. Amazing pedal, and it worked out really well for stuff like this. And this goes back to what I was saying, you know, these are creative ways that you can use this gear. I think a lot of this kind of stuff can be very daunting to just look at like, ooh, big fancy reverb pedal, when you don't really know what you're going to do with it. But what you do is you get it, and then you wait for the moment where you're working on a track and you say, okay, I need something interesting here. Like, I need this cool, like, reverbed out transition, something like that. And that's the moment where you pull it out. And then it's perfect. And then you have something that isn't just like that same old plugin that you've been using over and over. So again, thank you so much to Eventide for sending that over. And it was a really great way to come up with something exciting for this track. And yeah, and then the only other stuff down here is really just going to be like a very basic minimal amount of effects. You know, with this style of techno, it's not quite the same. Like the main mix of this track has a lot more effects in it, a lot more sweeps, builds, and stuff. This style, you're really just kind of doing the transitions with the elements you already have. You know, like cutting out the low end on the bass, you know, cutting out certain elements, like doing it that way, washing things out, filtering things, rather than like always going and adding new elements and stuff. But there are like a few effects in here. Now, I think what can be very powerful is if you do have like one kind of snare build. And then you just have that one, like the sweep, like this one right here that just pulls it into the, and makes that drop hit really hard. Because a lot of times, like, you get that big, powerful moment in the club with that, you know. And then it's kind of like, you save that moment, you know. Rather than doing one of these every 8 bars, it's going to make it really special if you save that for just, like, that moment and just, like, this little transition over here. Like, just for very particular moments, and be very careful with it rather than just dropping it in everywhere, because ultimately that's going to make this moment a lot more special. And yeah, so that is pretty much it for how I made this track. So again, a little bit different from the main mix, but still just like a simple, powerful track. I want to thank you to Eventide again for sending over the space. It's a great reverb pedal. I'll put the link in the description. And yeah, thank you so much everybody for all the support as well. If you haven't already, definitely go grab the track on Beatport, listen to it on Spotify. Again, it's only like $1.29 on Beatport, something like that. But really helps keep me going and is going to help run this thing up. You can also grab the full project files, samples, MIDI, presets, and all that from the track in the description. And yeah, thank you so much guys, and I'll see you tomorrow with another video.